The real reason MAGA wants to save America. I'm David Thompson, and this is my report. So what does it really mean to save America? Well, for millions of people, this is a powerful call to make the country great again. But what if the real reasons behind this movement isn't politics, economics, or even illegal immigration? What if it's a war over the soul of America? A war over its identity? And who gets to define it? We're going to show you how this mission to save America is really a campaign driven by deep anxieties about cultural change and a powerful attraction to the idea of strongman rule, a dictator. Now, I've done a lot of research on this topic, and I'm going to present to you my findings. See, Make America Great Again is more than a slogan. It's a banner of a massive ideological movement. It speaks to a deep feeling that something important has been lost, and it promises to bring it back. But what exactly do people feel they've lost? And what does this great America they want to restore actually look like? The answer isn't just in politics. It's buried in the cultural and psychological shifts happening in America today. The MAGA movement isn't just a political machine. At its heart, it's a social movement. It's built around a shared feeling of being disrespected, forgotten, and looked down upon by modern institutions. This feeling is powered by two things: the fear of rapid cultural change, which we're seeing now, and the appeal of a strong leader who promises he can turn back the clock. We're there now. To understand the drive to save America, first you have to understand the fear of losing it. So before I continue, if you enjoy our content here on the David Thompson Report, please like, subscribe, and share our videos. We appreciate it. So let's get started. Number one, the anxiety of cultural change. This is huge. At the very center of the MAGA movement is a powerful emotion, cultural anxiety. This isn't always about money. It's about a perceived loss of status. For a long time, one version of American identity, mainly white, Christian, and traditional, was seen as the unquestioned mainstream. That's just not the case anymore. And for some, this doesn't feel like progress. It feels like a personal threat. Sociologists have a name for it: cultural dethronement. Let that sink in. You can see why people feel this way when you look at the real-world changes happening all around them. Shifting demographics, the growing visibility of LGBTQ+ rights, new ideas about gender roles, and a national reckoning with racial injustice have completely changed the country's social fabric. Again, we're talking about the social fabric of America. For those who see these changes as a threat to their way of life, the world can feel unstable and even unrecognizable. They feel like their values are being attacked and they're losing their place in society. They're being dethroned. Keep that in your mind. They're being dethroned. Now, this anxiety has found a dangerous outlet in conspiracy theories like the Great Replacement. This is a false belief that elites are intentionally trying to replace native-born white Americans with immigrants and people of color. Once a fringe idea, it has now been echoed by mainstream politicians and media figures. This kind of talk turns demographic shifts into a sinister plot and cultural change into an attack. This cultural anxiety also shows up as a fierce resistance to what's called woke ideology. This is the driving force behind efforts to limit what schools can teach about race and history, to oppose gender-affirming care, and to get rid of diversity and equity programs. These aren't just random policy fights. They're battles in a much larger cultural war. They're attempts to stop the cultural tide and bring back a more traditional social order. The real motive isn't so much about economics. It's about a deep-seated fear of losing cultural and symbolic ground. This is the heart of the grievance, a feeling that the America they knew is disappearing and a desperate urge to get it back before it's gone. Let's go to number two, the allure of strongman rule. When people feel like the world is falling apart and their status threatened, they don't usually look for a committee to solve their problems. They look for a protector. This is where the second major force behind the MAGA movement kicks in: the psychological appeal of a strongman leader. Authoritarian tendencies don't just pop up out of nowhere. They're often triggered when people feel like their way of life is under attack. and millions of people feel that way right now. Now, an authoritarian leader offers simple, reassuring answers to very complex fears. They promise to restore order, punish enemies, and bring back a sense of certainty that's been lost. This is a central part of the MAGA movement, which is often defined by deep skepticism of democratic institutions and a powerful faith in a single leader. Institutions like the free press, the courts, and even the voting system itself are frequently painted as part of the corrupt deep state that works against real Americans. This kind of rhetoric helps convince people that the only person they can trust is a leader who stands against the system. The desire for centralized power isn't just a vague feeling. It's a detailed plan. Project 2025, a massive initiative from the Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups, is essentially a blueprint for radically reshaping the U.S. government. While its full implementation is still speculative as of now, the 900-page plan clearly lays out a goal of consolidating executive power by tearing down traditional checks and balances. The plan suggests bringing independent agencies, like the Department of Justice and the FBI, under the direct control of the president. This is a bad idea. It also calls for dismantling or even eliminating entire federal departments, like the Department of Education. It goes even further by aiming to replace tens of thousands of professional civil servants with an army of appointees vetted for their political loyalty. The stated goal is to deconstruct the administrative state and make the entire branch answer to one person based on a fringe legal idea called unitary executive theory. That's a crazy theory, by the way. The authoritarian impulse isn't about making government more efficient. It's about making it more obedient. It's an attempt to remove any obstacle, whether it's from independent agencies, the courts, or nonpartisan civil service, to push through a specific ideological agenda without a fight. The appeal of this is its promise of decisive, swift action. For those who believe America is in deep crisis, a leader willing to break the rules to save it might not seem like a threat to democracy, but its last hope. Now, before I move on to my third and final point, I want to ask you to like, subscribe, and share our videos. Especially make sure you hit that like button. It helps us with the Google algorithm. It helps us get more people to watch on YouTube. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support and loyalty. Number 3, redefining American identity. Very important. So let's recap. We have a large group of people who are deeply anxious about cultural change and a political movement that offers them a strong leader to fix everything. Keep in mind that strong leader is right now the most unpopular American president in history, Donald Trump. But what is the end game? What's this great America they want to save actually look like? This brings me to my final point and most important piece of the puzzle, the fight to define what it means to be an American. Again, I'll say it, the fight to define what it means to be an American. This is the most important piece of this puzzle. The slogan, "Make America Great Again," is all about nostalgia. But nostalgic for what? The vision of a great America, as promoted by the movement's messaging, is often a nation defined by a particular identity, white, Christian, and culturally traditional. It's important to note that while not every supporter may explicitly hold racist or exclusionary views, these themes of Christian nationalism are central to the movement's leadership and its most ardent followers. This vision translates into policies like prioritizing fossil fuels over climate agreements and pushing for economic protectionism, not just for economic reasons, but to reinforce a vision of a self-reliant, culturally uniform nation. But by its very nature, the definition of American is exclusionary. It draws a sharp line between who counts as a real American and who doesn't. You can see this clearly in the movement's rhetoric and policies on immigration, efforts to end protections for dreamers, ramping up mass deportations, and building a wall aren't just about security. They're about policing the very boundaries of our nation's identity. They reflect a belief that multiculturalism and immigration are weakening the nation's character. The exclusive form of identity politics is the exact opposite of a pluralistic vision of America, one that believes the nation's strengths come from its diversity and its ability to welcome new people and new ideas. The MAGA movement's definition of greatness is about restoration, not evolution. It wants to go back to a time when one political group held all the social and cultural power. So the struggle we're seeing is not just about politics. It's a deep conflict over the story America tells about itself. Is America a nation defined by a shared ethnicity and culture, looking back to an idealized past? Or is it a nation defined by a shared set of ideas, like liberty, equality, and opportunity? They are open to everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from. The answer to that question will shape the future of the entire country. So what's the real reason MAGA wants to save America? It's not about a specific tax policy or a forgotten law. It's an emotional and ideological crusade to win back a particular version of American identity. It's a movement born from the anxiety of cultural displacement, the fear that a tradition, and for some a white Christian version of this country, is being erased. That anxiety creates an opening for a strongman leader who promises to fight back against these cultural changes and restore a sense of order and dominance. It's why authoritarian ideas and sweeping plans like Project 2025 are embraced. They're seen as the necessary weapons to win a war for the nation's soul. The desire to save America is really a desire to save one vision of it, one that is nationalist and turns back the clock. This fight is so much bigger than any one election. It is a fundamental struggle over the meaning of America itself. Will our futures and the futures of our children be defined by an exclusionary nostalgia for the past, one that never really existed? Or will it be defined by an inclusive vision of a nation always trying to live up to its highest ideals? The battle for America's future has always been a battle over its identity, and right now, the outcome of this battle is far from certain. Thanks for watching the David Thompson Report. Please like, subscribe, and share. Remember to love your neighbor as yourself, and I'll see you next time right here on the David Thompson Report.